Welcome to the 7th webisode of First Edition, the all things comics, film, and pop culture web show. I'm George Aguilar, and I have another great show to share with you all. First, in comics, film, and pop culture news, I have great news for Star Wars fans everywhere. Star Wars Episode 7 is back in production. After Harrison Ford's leg injury sidelined production of the highly anticipated film, Ford is back in action, shooting first and asking questions later. As a huge fan of the Star Wars film franchise, I'm glad the cameras are rolling again, and with continued casting and character speculation, I can't wait to hear more about the film. With Han Solo back in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, Star Wars Episode 7 is back in action and set for a December 18th, 2015 release. In other Star Wars news, earlier this year it was announced that Dark Horse Comics would no longer publish Star Wars comics after the expiration of their license, and publishing rights will be returning to Marvel. Well, not only is Marvel going to publish new ongoing Star Wars comics, but they also announced the release of massive epic collections of the comics published by Dark Horse Comics. These epic collections will contain Star Wars miniseries and arcs from Dark Horse's historic run publishing these comics. The first of the epic collections is titled The Empire and will collect stories ranging from Star Wars Republic to Star Wars Dark Times. Look for these epic volumes to hit shelves in April of 2015. It was also announced that a new fan-favorite DC character will be coming to the Arrow TV series. I've loved Arrow, and I think they're constantly evolving the show to make it even more exciting. So when I heard actress Ryla Fukushima will be joining the cast as the character Katana, I became even more excited. Originally, actress Devon Aoki was set to play the Master Swordswoman, but now Fukushima is taking over the role. Ever since seeing her intense acting and visceral swordsmanship in 2013's The Wolverine, I was looking forward to seeing her in action again, and it looks like Arrow has granted my wish. Look for her in upcoming episodes. And fans of Wolverine, get ready to shed some tears as the 3 Months to Die storyline concludes and the Death of Wolverine storyline begins. After losing his healing factor in the 3 Months to Die storyline, Wolverine has fought a losing battle against his enemies who are coming at him from every angle, and in his diminished state, every battle takes a heavy toll on the hero. In the pages of the upcoming The Death of Wolverine storyline, writer Charles Soule, artists Steve McNiven and Jay Liston, and colorist Justin Ponsor will do the impossible and kill the Wolverine. As a huge fan of Wolverine, I can't say I'm not a little sad to hear one of my favorite heroes is going to meet his maker, but in the world of comics, it's only a matter of time before we'll see him again. The Death of Wolverine #1 arrives in comic shops September 3rd, 2014. It has a cover price of $4.99 and will have several variant covers. Now for reviews. I'd like to kick off the reviews with the Marvel Now release Ms. Marvel #7. In my previous show, I mentioned how much I enjoyed Wonder Woman and how I wished I would have started reading the book from the beginning. Now I can honestly say Ms. Marvel is another book I wish I had picked up from the get-go. Ms. Marvel #7 is written by G. Willow Wilson with interior art from Jacob Wyatt, coloring from Ian Herring, and cover art from Jamie McKelvey and Matthew Wilson. This issue stars the new Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, who teams up with fan-favorite mutant Wolverine in a race to stop an oversized alligator and its incredibly strange villainous master. This was a very enjoyable and fun read. There is plenty of humor, action, and strong character moments in this story. I really enjoyed Willow Wilson's characterizations. While Wolverine may seem like a very old soul in this story, he also genuinely seems to respect and value Kamala's efforts as Ms. Marvel. While the Wolverine Mentor's youth story beat has been done to death, this adventure was actually refreshing and way more enjoyable than Wolverine's usual mentoring efforts. I also thought the humor in this book was well worth the read, as Willow Wilson captures the charm of a young girl trying to fill the shoes of her favorite heroine. Kamala is also unique in that she is contemplative of her actions and genuinely wishes to avoid inflicting harm on others. This is a quality I greatly admire. that is an excellent contrast to Wolverine's modus operandi of stab first and ask questions later. Wyatt's illustrations are clean and detailed and really shine in comedic panels. Herring's coloring work is also well suited to this story and its illustrations illuminating the sewer tale and its characters. McKelvey and Wilson's cover art is very clean and accurately reflects the fun-natured team-up adventure in this book. I've read a lot of young hero books, and this story, with the exception of Image's Invincible, is one of the only books that I felt could be compared to the uniqueness and spark of the original Amazing Spider-Man stories. This was an excellent read, so check it out. The next book I read was Image's highly anticipated comic, The Fade Out, by the award-winning creative team of writer Ed Brubaker and illustrator Sean Phillips, with colors from Elizabeth Brettweiser. Brubaker and Phillips have really brought back crime comics in a big way, and The Fade Out looks to be their most ambitious project yet. The Fade Out is the team's first offering from Image Comics after signing a 5-year deal with the publisher. Set in the seedy Hollywood of 1948, The Fade Out showcases the darker side of the picture business in this noir mystery comic. After a young starlet is murdered, a young screenwriter finds himself at the heart of a Hollywood murder mystery. This comic was a breath of fresh air. In a world where superheroes and zombies rule, it's nice to read something as unique as The Fade Out. Brubaker crafts a visceral look behind the curtains of the glamorous and more often than not corrupt Hollywood movie scene of the 1940s. This comic is not for the faint of heart, as Brubaker pulls no punches in this story, with scenes portraying brutality, racism, and sexism. Phillips's gritty cover and interior illustrations are perfectly suited for noir stories and elevate the intensity of this dark story. Brettweiser's coloring work is equally gripping and enhances Phillips's illustrations. There are also bonus features in this issue, including an afterword to the reader from Brubaker and a short article from Devin Faraci titled The Lonesome Death of Peg Entwistle. This comic is a solid read, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting anything less from this solid team of creators. The Fade Out is an excellent escape from the usual comic book fare and is well worth reading. I also read ODM No. 1 from Second Sight Studios. This comic is written by Christopher M. Ewing and Marshall Loveless, with art from Marshall Loveless and lettering from Mindy Lopkin. ODM is a supernatural thriller about a man who awakens to find himself lost and stricken by cravings for blood and flesh. This was another strong offering from Second Sight Studios, and I'm really enjoying their books. Ewing and Loveless craft a strong mystery with plenty of twists and turns packed into this first issue. Loveless's illustrations are well suited to this dark and at times gore-filled story. Lopkins' lettering is also a standout part of this comic, as she manages to evoke the same level of grim and unforgiving storytelling in her lettering as to match the visceral art and story of this comic. Another part of this comic that is worth noting are letters to the readers from each of the creators that were enjoyable and shared heartfelt accounts about the creation of this comic. Overall, this was a great read that sets up big things in upcoming issues. And if you're in withdrawal from a lack of giant monster flicks after 2014's blockbuster Godzilla film, Enormous No. 2 is just the fix you need. 215 Inc.'s Enormous No. 2 is written by Tim Daniel, with cover and interior illustrations from Mehdi Shigour and lettering from Matthew Melikov. This issue picks up directly after the events of issue No. 1, as a young woman fights to escape the ever-growing number of these enormous mutated beasts, and the military continues to fall before them. It becomes apparent that the world is changed irrevocably. This story is set in the present day during what can only be described as the giant monster apocalypse. Daniel continues his incredible story of a world under siege by monsters. His storytelling and characterizations are spot on, and the story is completely engrossing. Of course, as much as I've enjoyed the story, I've enjoyed the art as much if not more. Chiguro's illustrations are hauntingly beautiful, with countless detail. Every monstrosity is terrifying and unique in its rendition. While End of Days tales are nothing new, Daniel's tale definitely stands out from the crowd. This is another great issue with a gripping story and incredible illustrations, and I can't wait to read what comes next. Lastly, I read DC's new Suicide Squad #2. This comic was produced by a small army of creators, including writer Sean Ryan, interior artists Tom Derenick, Bat, Scott Hanna, Mark Irwin, and Norma Rapmond, with Blonde on colors, and Megan Hetrick and Alex Sinclair on cover art. This comic was an action-packed issue that moved at a breakneck pace, but managed to allow each character a chance in the spotlight. This issue picks up right in the middle of what seems to be the team's last stand against Russian forces, as the team is pinned down and their enemies are advancing. To make matters worse, one of their team is missing in action. This would be the end for anyone else, except when you're on the Suicide Squad, this is just another day's work. This book had a lot of great elements I enjoyed, especially the team dynamic. The charm of this book is definitely seeing villains who can't stand each other forced to work together. Harley Quinn and Black Manta especially stand out in this issue. It was strangely surreal, but also fun seeing Black Manta taking charge of this team of renegades. Ryan's story is action-driven, but he does an admirable job of giving each member adequate screen time. Each of the illustrators does solid work, and I was surprised to see that the artists did not overlap with their own individual styles. Overall, the art in this comic is fairly cohesive. The cover illustration is also very cool and suitable to the tone of the book. For anyone who loves a team-up comic with villainous underdogs, this book is right up your alley. On this segment of Cover the Cover, in honor of Jack the King Kirby's birthday, I'll discuss one of my favorite comic book covers he illustrated. X-Men Volume 1, Number 3, which was published back in January of 1964. Jack Kirby was a master of the comic book art form and would redefine the medium time after time with his incredible illustrations. X-Men Number 3 is one of my favorite covers he illustrated because it shows all of the X-Men in heated battle with the formidable enemy, the Blob. Every character on this cover is poised for battle as they attempt to thwart this unstoppable Blob. Kirby's illustrations are so incredible because his work always seems larger than life. Every character is set in motion and has a dynamic posture and movement. I especially love how the Beast launches into an attack feet first. This is just one of Kirby's iconic works, but it's also one of my favorites. I'd like to end the show with the Wolverine-centric top 5. Since Wolverine will be passing into the great beyond, I thought this top 5 I'll discuss my personal favorite Wolverine stories and why I think they're so great. A blatant omission to this list is Wolverine Old Man Logan. It is omitted because I haven't read it yet, but I've heard a lot of good things. Number 5 on my list is the line-wide crossover X-Men Fatal Attractions, and is written by Fabian Nicieza and Scott Lobel, with illustrators Greg Capullo, Ken Lashley, Joe Quesada, John Romita Jr., with Adam and Andy Kubert. This isn't a Wolverine story exclusively, but by the end of the storyline it becomes synonymous with Wolverine. After Magneto and his acolytes return, trouble soon follows, as the X-Men race against time to thwart them. When Wolverine's battle with Magneto escalates, and Wolverine nearly disembowels Magneto, he retaliates by forcibly removing the adamantium metal from Wolverine's skeleton. This story is so important because it was the first time we really saw Wolverine at death's door in the main present-day series and in horrifying detail. The actual event occurred in the pages of X-Men Volume 2, number 25, and this event would have lasting repercussions for the X-Men, and especially Wolverine, who would have to adapt to a life without unbreakable bones. Number 4 on my list is Wolverine Blood Debt. This story is an action-packed tale that sees Wolverine return to Japan as he is drawn into a feuding Yakuza war. Wolverine Blood Debt takes place in the pages of Wolverine number 150 through 153 and is written and illustrated by Steve Scrosey. This comic is a non-stop roller coaster of action in which Wolverine literally fights wave after wave of seemingly endless Yakuza in an effort to rescue his adopted daughter. What's so cool about this comic is how much action this comic has. And the action is dead serious, with Wolverine unleashing his berserker rage on nearly every panel. If you're looking for a Wolverine story that pulls no punches, Wolverine Blood Debt is the comic for you. Number 3 on my list is the storyline Wolverine Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State is collected from Wolverine Volume 2, issues 20 through 25, and from writer Mark Millar and illustrator John Romita Jr. After Wolverine is murdered by a mysterious villain known as the Gorgon, he is subsequently resurrected by the Hand and serves as their personal assassin. Their goal for Wolverine? Kill every hero who crosses his path. This is another great Wolverine tale that shows just how deadly Wolverine really is as he battles nearly every major hero and team in the Marvel Universe. While turning Wolverine into a villain is nothing new, I really enjoyed the execution, pun intended, of this in this storyline. The story and art are explosive, and this is definitely a comic where fans see Wolverine taken to his limits and beyond. This is another great action-packed comic storyline that shows how fearsome Wolverine is and how lucky we are he's not a villain. Number 2 on my list of top Wolverine tales is the storyline Weapon X. This story arc originated in the pages of Marvel Comics Presents numbers 72 through 84 and is written and illustrated by Barry Windsor Smith. This story is so important because we're finally allowed a peek into Wolverine's past, which before this had consisted of vague flashbacks. This is the brutal origin fans were looking for, as we see in gory detail the full scope of the terrible experiments that made Wolverine into the mutant he is today, as his skeleton is bonded with the unbreakable adamantium metal. Of all the top 5 entries I've discussed, this is probably the saddest and most heartfelt tale, as Wolverine fights for his humanity even as he has it stripped away by sadistic scientists who would transform him into a killing machine. This is definitely one of Wolverine's greatest stories, and it is a unique tale because we see Wolverine in a way we had never seen him before, which is as a victim at the mercy of evil men. And the final entry on my list is the series that started it all, the limited series Wolverine. Wolverine, the limited series, is a 4-issue miniseries written by comic book legends writer Chris Claremont and illustrator Frank Miller. This story sees Wolverine travel to Japan in an effort to rescue one of his greatest loves, Mariko Yashida, which leads him to trouble in the form of a master swordsman, Lord Shingen, who just so happens to be the father of the woman he loves. This comic has it all, as Wolverine fights for his true love, battles hordes of enemies, and is even bested in battle by a mere Homo sapien with no special powers and only a complete mastery of the sword. This story also coins Wolverine's famous slogan, "The best there is at what he does." It was also adapted for the big screen in 2013's The Wolverine, which is a strong adaptation but falls short towards the end. For anyone who wants to know why Wolverine is such a fan-favorite character, this series is the answer for you, and it's my personal favorite Wolverine story of all time. That's a wrap on another episode of First Edition, the all things comics, film, and pop culture web show. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.